Duperas y Duperas today on Dupe by the River. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a busy week here for Philadelphia Union. 2 additions, possibly. We're waiting for the official word. And we have a subtraction here. We're all going to discuss it here today on this edition of Dupe by the River. And don't you dare go anywhere because you do not want to miss this episode. Let's get it started, guys. Done.
Dupe by the River
doesn't do anything well. There is not one.
I'm sorry. There was no creativity.
As a Union fan, I take that all day.
Another DP. We need to go get Mario Balotelli. And that is right. Welcome, everyone, to Dupe by the River, the show where we follow everything Philadelphia Union. Of course, we are brought to you by Philly Sports Network. Before we dive into today's episode of Dupe by the River, welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning back on in. Of course, we are live right now on El Parcero Philly's YouTube channel. And, of course, we are live on Twitter here. Welcome on in, everybody. If you guys are watching live on El Parcero Philly's YouTube channel, hit that like button, subscribe for more of your live viewings of the podcast. Of course, you can find us wherever you stream podcasts from Apple, Google, and Spotify. Find us under Dupe by the River podcast. And, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you today, my expert in duping. Please welcome Justin Bogart, Bomb Squad Tech, Friedberg. Justin, it's going to be a fun one here today. How you feeling, brother?
Pretty good. You know, as I said before the show, I am exhausted. I don't know if y'all saw my Instagram. I was in Orlando.
Yes, you were.
For the PL Fan Fest. Amazing time. With staying with my good pal Freddie Alarcon, and
what's up, Freddie?
And thanks to my pals and the best MCs in PL Fan Fest, the Cooligans, Alexis and Christian, showing us a great time. I mean, you know, and you know, overall it was a great weekend. Alexis and Christian killed it. It was a fun time. You know. Got to meet some PL legends and got to walk around Universal. Got to go to Disney. You know, a little bit of you know, theme park, a little bit of soccer. You know, I like to think that's for me. That's the Florida soccer dream.
Off-season Justin's in full swing, brother. I love it, man. I love it, man.
Always.
It's freaking awesome, man. Shout out to our friends over at the Cooligans, Christian Alexis, killing it as always. And of course, today, please, ladies. This man needs no introduction whatsoever, but making his debut on the Dupe by the River podcast. Please welcome the legend himself, Tommy Bogues, ladies and gentlemen. What's up, Tom? How you feeling, man?
What's going on, boys? Thank you for having me. How's everything going?
Dude, we're blessed, man. Obviously, today we're a little excited, and we're chomping at the bit to talk to you about today's editions. Hopefully, we'll get to that. But Tom, first off, thank you so much for coming on here, man. But I think the people want to know this legend that you have been deemed the Woj, the Adam Schefter of our great league. How did this legend even come about? How did you get into just insider reporting?
Thank you for asking about my. I don't know exactly how long the show goes, but if you want me to just monologue for 60 minutes about my life story, you guys can just, you know, chill, relax, recline. I get it. I know, man. I'll shorten it. Keep it self-deprecating as usual. Look, at some point in high school, I think that I figured out at 5'7" and not exactly blazing fast that I might not make it professional soccer, right? So I was able to kind of, you know, have that clarity and, you know, realize that dream might not come to fruition. But look, I had an interest I was more of like an English or history kid more than like the math science stuff, right? So those interests came. I took a couple journalism classes in high school. I was like, wait, dude, people just get to talk and write about sports. And like, that's their job. Hell yeah, man, I'm in. So yeah, I was lucky enough to know that that's kind of what I wanted. I played college soccer as well, and it was near New York City. So that helped, you know, internships. And then, you know, by the time I got to MLSsoccer.com, that is. So, you know, good timing. Sam Stachel was there when I first started, and the editor-in-chief, you know, I always owe him for, you know, seeing something in me, believing something in me. I was able to do a little bit work with Stachel, and Stachel has been a mentor of mine. And then Sam, because he's the legend, he's the gold standard. The Athletic started and poached him, and MLS didn't hire anybody else, didn't give me a pay grade or anything else, but said, hey, like, Stachel's gone. If you you have a chance to do some of the things that he did. And yeah, it just kind of took off from there. So look, you know, hard work and good luck, good timing, you know, all that.
Everything just aligned, man. That's what we love to hear, Tom. Well, we do appreciate the hard work you put in, man, because we always rely on your tweets for sure, man. Especially my TikTok, that's for sure, man. Speaking of which, Tom, we're talking about, the whole media and the whole broadcasting and journalism in our league. Obviously, you heard the news of Vox Media. We're obviously this podcast really good friends with Brotherly Game. We shouts out to Matt, the Doopy brothers, Joe Listen, all those guys. But for you, man, you kind of see things from a different perspective, man. Like, dude, like we need those type of media outlets. I mean, what was your kind of reaction towards that news, man?
It sucks, man. And like, look, dude, like I know how much those jobs are paid. It's not you can't even call them jobs. It's not like the minimum. Like the idea of saving money. Saving what money? Like, what are you talking about? It's not. This isn't like it's like an accounting error for a company like Vox. So like that's really hurtful because it's not like they were doing a whole lot of upkeep. It was, hey, here's whatever the money is, and go run your site, do whatever the hell you want. So it was, and like that was kind of a kick in the balls. Like I feel it's not about me. Like I'm kicking the balls, I'm sure, to everybody who was affected by this. But for me and from the outside, it's frustrating. It sucks. Like. It was really invaluable what all of these outlets do, what you do. Like the more, the better. The more interest, the better. The more day-to-day stuff. Like I can't be everywhere. Like I'm not everywhere. Like, dude, the amount of times that like, and Andrew Wiebe talk about this on Extra Time. He's like, dude, like when we prep for shows, if we're talking about the Union, we start with the SB Nation blog. We start with the local people. Like who gives a crap what Tom says? Almost cursed there. I don't know what the rules here. Who gives a
You're good.
Okay. Who gives a shit about what Tom says? Like we're gonna start. You guys have up-to-date information. You guys have the pulse. Like again, and like SB Nation for what the independent outlets like you guys do. All this stuff is just integral, and I truly hope that there are a second wave of this, whether it's independent, whether it's a lot of SB Nation places get together and make it a site, or whether it's the Striker or somewhere else picking off some of these people and giving them, more reason to continue doing this. Like, look, bro, like what is some of these, like, I don't feel the need to name the teams, but teams with lower interest, who's going to be asking questions on press conferences if these writers are gone, right? Like, and hopefully that everything can work out and there's independence and there's a second thing, but look, it sucks, man. Like if this is all gone, like it's a bad day for everybody who consumes and follows the league.
Yeah, to your point, I mean, it's not just the soccer, because a lot of the hockey outlets also got, wiped down as well. And I know how American sports, I mean, let's face it, NBA, NFL, everyone's digesting that at a constant rate. Yep. But there are people who are so passionate about the NHL and the MLS. We can't just take that away from people, especially a league like the MLS. I mean, we've been here for where we're going on 2017, 2018. We need these type of outlets. So it definitely, it was heartbreaking to see those guys that get ripped apart. But Tom, we did make some moves. The Union did make some moves this week here. I want to start off with Joaquin Torres because this is something that it's been reported 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I guess what did you hear about the move? What can you tell us about Joaquin to Philly? And I guess why was there a delay?
I'm not even going to try to say his first name. I'm going to sound, even more white than I think you guys all know I am and look. So
we'll get Conventional to give the proper pronunciation.
No, man, because I just put out a video recently. It's like hearing you say his name after I said it, I was like, oh, brutal, man. Yeah, anyway, look, so the Union were super interested, and they identified Torres as somebody. Look, Paxton Aronson was the backup number 10 to Daniel Gazdag, and like somebody who could play second striker. They wanted depth. They wanted that. And I think that they've got a really overqualified depth piece. I don't quite understand why Montreal let him go. The numbers will come out whenever this is announced, which I thought it was going to be today, but it hasn't been announced yet. It's not going to be that expensive. Like it's going to be a number, but it's not like, I don't even know if it's going to be over $1 million or not. And again, I probably should be more careful than I'm being, but it's not going to be a huge, crazy number. So I think this is a really good deal for the Union. Look, when they've targeted players, this front office, this coaching staff has a way of finding talent and utilizing it best. So I think that they've earned the benefit of the doubt in whatever they do. And he's a super talented player. So I'm really excited to see what he looks like. And look, Daniel Gazdag, I think he started all 34 games last year. Like Paxton Aronson would have been fine as a backup, but like with Aronson gone, they didn't what are the chances that your best player, one of your best attacking players plays pretty much every single minute again? And they're planning for 55 games. So the MO of the offseason, the MO, I'm sure of this conversation is going to be like depth is key. And, I believe that they got an overqualified air quote depth piece, somebody who's going to play a whole lot and somebody who's going to offer something a little bit different.
Absolutely. Justin, from your perspective, man, obviously been waiting for this move for a minute, but your thoughts now that it seems to be official, brother.
Yeah, so like I said, when Tom tweeted about this, I kind of scrambled, and I have we have our sources in Montreal, and I reached out to our friends at the Balls Round and Eve and said, hey, so I've watched some Montreal games, and at this point, Montreal is to be like NYCFC. Are they going to have a roster at this point? Like, seriously, who knows? I think I've seen more, departures than arrivals,
and particularly at this position, they haven't replaced Georgi Mihailovic. Like I thought Torres was going to be the guy. Like they've got like one attacking midfielder right now. I'm sorry, go on.
Yeah, and especially in a in a Hernan Losada, which I still don't understand that hiring, but that's in that kind of a system, he kind of works because he's got that energy to be able to play. And I asked Eve, I said, what exactly can you tell me? Because I've only seen off the bench, he's done some stuff, and she basically said, his salary might be a little high, but you might be getting something decent for at this point what's going to be a steal. And I don't know, at this point, if I'm a sporting director or GM in this league, and Ernst Tanner tells me anything under $1 million, even if it's the 26th player on my roster, I'm charging at least $1 million. Because, we went through the list here, and of the additions, like this could be similar to a Carranza situation where, listen, he didn't exactly light it up in Montreal, and the way that the Union's culture and locker room has been put together through Jim Curtin and Ernst Tanner, the vibes are right, and overall, that's the kind of players you want. And I hate to say it, but LAFC kind of last year did the model on interleague acquisitions. I mean, Ryan Hollingshead, probably one of the more underrated fullbacks in the league, and he was throwing in crosses left and right, and that's why Chicho Arango was putting up the numbers, and Opoku and Franco Escobar and all these interleague, and they got Mendez mid-season, and a player who, I talked to Orlando fans, and they're like, he's okay, and he ended up being a huge bench piece in a run. And the way that the Union have built this roster, looking at Torres, you can go, okay, now you have that attacking piece, and there's going to be a lot of games, 55 potentially at the minimum, and its depth is absolutely going to be tested this year, and we'll see. But if the numbers are right, then this could be an absolute another Ernst Tanner, steal.
That is for sure, man. And that leads into the other signing today announced, Damian Lowe. From Miami. I guess this to me is great for the Union because that's something we've been looking for, depth. And of course, we'll see what the numbers are, but I'm sure it's not going to be a lot. But I guess the question here is, why would Miami let him go, Tom?
Yeah, that was my thinking, that with this interest, and again, this is another player that it's not like they just figured it out yesterday that they wanted him, right? Like I assumed, so like when they were trying to sign Aaron Long, this is Miami, like I think that's probably where this all started. Like, okay, like if you're signing this, like, hey, we're interested in your player, and I'm just assuming this, not. So I don't think it's a coincidence that Miami didn't sanction this deal until now, and I assume that means that they have what they believe to be an upgrade coming in at center back, because as you said, like I thought he was fine for them last year, and I think he's going to be. I think he's, again, another overqualified backup is what I'll say. I think that he's a fine starting center back in this league. Maybe I think he's going to look a lot better next to Jacob Glesnes or Jack Elliott than he did Aime Mabika or whatever else was in Miami. And that's not necessarily to be a slight to Mabika or anybody else on that team, but Glesnes and Elliott are two elite center backs in his league. And the game's a lot easier when you're next to one of them behind Jose Martinez and in front of Andre Blake. It's just a lot better to succeed. So again, I think that this is. I really love this signing, and people are worried that maybe Brandon Craig won't play a lot. Like maybe not, but like look, Paxton Aronson still developed enough where Eintracht Frankfurt wanted to buy him last year, and Salzburg were trying for a long time as well. Like I think it's going to be okay for Brandon Craig.
Youth national team will definitely help Brandon Craig. That is for sure, man. But Justin, it's funny because Lowe kind of does fit the mold of our center backs. You talk about these tall with pace type of center backs who are really strong, and it seems like this just continues it on, Justin.
Yeah, I surprisingly Miami was one of the teams that I did, in ESPN Plus. I tried to watch basically every game. At this point, I think I literally have watched every team play at least one game, but Miami caught my interest. One because
they were fun.
Because the run they were making, and I wanted to see if Gonzalo Higuain would, pass out, just in general exhaustion because how he got comeback player of the year. I still don't know. It coming back from what was his quote? Smoking cigarettes on the field. It's still but Lowe was one of those guys that, yeah, he fits the Union type of center back. He's tall, agile, can bring the ball up, has a decent passing range, and I think the thing that people aren't necessarily realizing, and Jim Curtin said it bluntly, they're going to switch formations up. And not just, the 4-2-3-1 and the 4-4-2. No, they talked about a back three and a 3-5-2 with having maybe even putting all three center backs, having Lowe, Glesnes, and Elliott, or if you want to throw Kai in there because Kai can easily.
No, he'll be the wing back.
At least I think as a left-sided center back.
No, he's going to be the wing back. He's going to be like in any three back situation. But yeah,
if you throw Manny Rial, I mean, I think you throw that
more like
out there. But like Damian Lowe is exactly what they need. And again, people have said, "Oh, what about Brandon Craig?" Brandon Craig gets to learn still from a good center back core, and as we've learned from Paxton Aronson, you don't have to play all that much in this Union system to get interest. I mean, the fact that the Union got $4 million with add-ons and incentives, people were asking us, is that a lot? I'm like, yeah, for a guy who pretty much made their name in the the U20 CONCACAF Championship. Like that's exactly where this money came from. And if Brandon Craig continues to get the youth national team minutes and get some maybe some Leagues Cup and some Open Cup, because I think the Union are probably going to prioritize Champions League and the MLS.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
They have. So I think Open Cup and Leagues Cup are where the rotation is going to happen. And with the pieces that you've been bringing in, don't forget, we brought in Pereira. You have Odada, who was brought in last season, and you have that young center back who was brought in last year for you too. So you have so many pieces that have now been brought in. Rotation is going to be key. And as Thomas said, it's a very overqualified backup. Like getting Low at this point, Miami has to have something lined up because in terms of interleague, transfers, it's Aaron Long already signed with LAFC and Collins just signed with Girona. So the center back in terms of depth is starting to dwindle a bit. So I think that's, if they're going to make a move, it has to be soon. And the Union, once again, poaching Miami. I'm sure at this point, Ernst Tanner should just be on the wall of, if this man calls, do not answer.
Seriously, man. Elijah's got a really good question here in the comment section. Who do you think will make a bigger impact, Torres or Pereira? Tom, if you want to start off.
Oh, that's a good question. So I don't know who's going to get more minutes, right? Like because Pereira can play a couple positions, but you'd assume that Jack McGlynn would be the first kind of center mid into the team. But then, like we said, like Daniel Gazdag started 34 games last year. I'll give a slight edge to Torres just because he'll be, I think, an attacking sub a whole lot and have chances to impact the game more.
Okay. Justin, what do you think?
I'm going to go Pereira, and I think just because we saw last year that Jim Curtin, if Leon or El Brujo wasn't having a great game, he wouldn't mind rotating just to not make a statement, but just be like, hey, you've earned at least a night off, and put him on the bench and kind of see. And with the amount of games and the fact that I think Pereira is more typically a 6, but I think with the way that the Union play, I feel like he's the potential Ali Bedoya heir because he's the closest that the Union have to that, that box to box, and Jack McGlynn is not that when he's in there at that position. The Union,
it's a different profile.
Yeah, exactly. And I think so. You're going to see, and I've said this last year and it showed that towards the end that Ali Bedoya should be getting rest, and that's where Pereira is going to get the minutes is that rotation, and you're going to see a lot of rotation in that midfield, and that's where I think Pereira will get a slight edge in minutes. It'll be close. I think Torres will get more minutes because, as you said, guys did play every game, and in this season, that's not sustainable remotely, and there will be more international competitions. And Hungary, as a nation, are a growing power in Europe. They really did shock teams in the Nations League. So I do think he's going to get more call-ups, and that also means more games for him, which means more tired legs. And I think you're going to need to utilize, and be careful with your players' minutes this season.
Absolutely. I just, gentlemen, as we're talking about this, I'm just thinking about, Jim having all the options on his bench. Something like he's had options, but there's some really quality options. I go back to like CCL a couple years ago. When you look at Medica's bench and you got like $1 million players and you got like 16, 17-year-old players on your bench. But I think this year it's much different. And, I put that tweet out here today, but the evolution of Ernst Tanner, what we're seeing, a couple of years ago, you get Bruno Martinez, Kai Wagner, you find these diamonds in the rough around the world. And you look at these past 2 all seasons, guys, he's finding talent within our league and at a cheap price. And this year, you get Joaquin Torres, you get Andres Pereira, who are younger. Damian Lowe, he's 29. He's still in his 20s, right? But he's finding these chips, these chips in our league. So I think this evolution that we're seeing is going to be beneficial. We got depth, guys. That's a good point.
No, and again, that's like the MO of this offseason. Like obviously the starting 11, as long as Kai Wagner stays, and there's a week left, but the starting 11 is very defined and very like it's really, really good. And the idea this offseason, we need to add a few depth pieces, particularly with Paxton Aronson going. So now that Torres is in, Lowe in, and then we haven't talked about it yet, Matt Freese being traded to NYCFC. That makes sense. He's not going to play over Andre Blake, but they have Joe Bendick, and I'm sure that they will
pour one out for Matty.
They will sign one more goalkeeper, and I'm whether it's a backup or a number 3 with Bendick being look, if Andre Blake is healthy, he's playing, and so that makes sense that why Matt Freese would want an opportunity elsewhere.
I know, man. That signing was like so bittersweet because, like, on one hand, like, Justin's known, like I've said it for like the last 2 years, I feel like he can start somewhere else. Yeah. But then it's like it's New York. It's like, oh man. Oh, dude, Justin, what did you think of that news, man?
I mean, yeah, it was a dagger because it was NYCFC, but I think it signaled a few things. One, that Matty Freese felt comfortable to move on. But I also think it, to me, signifies that NYCFC are absolutely prepared for Sean Johnson to not be on the roster because Correct. Toronto seems pretty highly in the mix. I know talking to even some Orlando fans who were talking about, when Gallese was maybe leaving, that NYCFC were rumored for Gallese and Sean Johnson maybe the other way.
Yeah, man.
And there wasn't too much, scuttlebutt about that. It was just very early talks. But I think this clearly indicates that I would be shocked if Sean Johnson comes back to NYCFC.
It's not happening.
Yeah, not at this point. Before we let Tom go, one question, Tom, I want to ask you, just MLS related. Cool. Watching last year, watching Drusy come out of nowhere, I'm like, where did this guy come from? I want to ask you, do you think right now there is a signing that no one's really talking about you could see make a serious impact for a club this year?
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, off the top of my head, and doesn't fit the mold, but like people are talking about Martin Ojeda in Orlando. I think he's going to be awesome. Stipe Buick with LAFC. I'm not sure what his impact will be immediately because they obviously have so many options up top. All right, how about this? Denny Bouanga. I think that would fit the Driussi mold because Driussi came in the summer before last season and Bouanga came in last summer. I think that dude's like best 11 potential. Like he's in that team with that style. His like a bit of goals and assists is a little bittersweet coming for an LAFC player talking on the show, but like I think that guy's phenomenal. I think that he's going to be really, really good. And look, like he could be the talisman of this team. Like Vela's obviously the super talented former MVP. All of these things, he'll always be the king. But Bouanga on like a game-to-game basis rather than whether Vela's going to be in or out with injuries or whatever it is. Like I don't know. I'm just super high on Denny Bouanga.
Awesome stuff, man. Tommy Bogues, man, please keep up the good work. We really appreciate it. And we hope to catch up with you during the regular season, man. We'll see.
I appreciate you having me. Thanks for the support. I'd love to be on again.
Sounds good. Tommy Bogarts, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks, Tom. Awesome stuff, man. We got Todd. Oh, Todd with a great question. Did you see this, Justin? Besiktas in on Glesnes? Do you think this could really happen, man?
I mean, at this point, I don't know. I mean,
what's the price right now for Glesnes, you would say?
The rumor was 4 million, but that would be incredibly low for a defender of the year winning.
Has this league sold center backs to like Europe?
I mean, I know Chris Richards was in the FC Dallas system. It's typically the younger ones, but I mean, Glesnes is in his mid-20s, so it could be the right time. And the Turkish league is, I mean, Besiktas are have been champions a number of years.
Yeah, they're a good club.
And so there have been a number of talent. I mean, I believe Kyle Larin has been playing straight there, and there's been some solid talent going into the league and then getting spun for a crazy amount of money. I don't know if I buy that rumor, but if he would be leaving anytime soon. Right now it's hard to imagine. Gearing they just signed Low, that really has depth.
Yeah, man, it would definitely be interesting to see. I mean, obviously we want to see all of our players thrive, but obviously, selfishly we want to see everyone stay because we got a little run to do here, man. But for sure. Also too, we're in spring training, right? We're down in Clearwater. We had a Kai Wagner Butte here today. Kind of sucks we can't watch these games though, Justin. I'm a little bitter, but hey, I understand.
Yeah, at this point though, I'm waiting for February to hit and
that's right, brother.
Apple to the league to tell me how I can watch.
So much anticipation, man. Oh my god!
Like they did say it was going to happen in February. They would tell us how we were going to be able to watch the games, and you have the season ticket. You have the one per account,
right?
So we'll see. At this point, I'm just waiting for that to be able to watch as many games as I can.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, guys, that's going to do it for this edition of Duke by the River. Justin needs rest so bad, so we need to get this man to bed. But, guys, seriously, thank you so much for tuning on in. We'll be back again very, very soon. We'll start getting regular pods as we're getting closer to the season. Obviously, it's been tough with the off-season, much news. But seriously, guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe for more of your live viewing. You can find us every stream podcast as well. Find us under Duke by the River podcast. A big thank you and a big shout out to Tommy Bogarts for hopping on in today and giving us his insight. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Justin Bogart Bomb Squad Tech Friedberg. Of course, I go by the name of El Parcero Philly, and we're telling you guys